It's 12 o'clock, Julie.
It's 12 o'clock. All right, it's 12 o'clock. Welcome, everybody. We're so excited that you're here to join us today for our webinar. We're going to be talking about how to get your offer accepted in 24 hours and even with multiple offers. So we are thrilled to have our coach and fearless leader, Darryl Davis, with us today. We're going to do a little bit of housekeeping here real quick. To get the most from the webinar, we want you to take lots of notes. We want you to text your questions using this Q&A section for those of you who are already starting to use it to tell us where you're from. If you have technical issues, please use the little chat box to tell us what your technical issues are, because we got two people. We got our wonderful Sarah is handling chat, and then I've got questions going. So here we go. You ready,
Okay,
Darryl?
awesome.
Take it away.
Thank you. And by the way, gang, we're going to try something different with GoToWebinar. We're using GoToWebinar. Today we're going to do 2 polls, and I've never used the poll function in GoToWebinar, so let's cross our fingers and hope that it goes okay. By the way, if you guys want to stay in touch with me, there's my social media handle. By the way, that's a teaching technique, right? So if you have a website, like our website is Darryl Speaks. Our power agents have their own dedicated website, but Darryl Speaks is my Facebook, my Twitter, my LinkedIn. It's all that one. Darryl Speaks is on every social handle. So there's a teaching tip that if you can come up with one social media handle and do it on everything. Couple of questions. When will I be coming to your area? That's a common question we have. So there is a website, poweragentseminar.com. That's usually where we post when I'm traveling and where I'm going. I will say real quick, those of you that called in late or just a few minutes, right, just a minute ago, we were talking about this workshop. There's this workshop that I do. I just want to let you know, once a year in January on Long Island. It's the only place, the only city that I do it. And it's in this class. It's listed where we sell out about 500 people. This is the class where I actually call FSBOs live from the stage. My batting average is I'll call 4, I'll schedule 3, then the class does it throughout the day. So it's a really awesome inventory program. So I suggest that you check it out. Again, that website is listingworkshop.com. So I'm not going to talk about it again. So if you just want to make a note of that, listingworkshop.com, that should be easy to remember. Anyway, second question, is this a sales pitch? No, it's not. I do want to be clear though, for those of you that we have 2 types of people on this call. We have our power agents. So our power agents are people very special to us. They're our members, they're in our membership. And then we have some people on this call that we call guests, and the guests, you'll hear me talking about the power program or to power agents from time to time, but regardless, this is not a sales pitch. This is 1 hour of digging deep on this one topic. I do want to just bring the guests up to speed so they understand this, that this is a $27 a month membership that people can cancel anytime, which of course we hope they don't. You have a bonus today. For those of you not a power agent, you can become one for free for 30 days, and you get a copy of the slides that I'm going to go over with you. For any of the new power agents that we have in the program, I do want to remind you, the website has a dedicated classroom where we organize everything, and that's on the Power Program website. And when you click into one of those topics, it delves deeper. Every one of those links has a form, a flyer, or a checklist. This month in the What's New category, which is one of the tabs, there's a ton of great things. The 2 things that I want to point out really quick right now that's really important to start using power agents is there is a flyer. It says 11 reasons to list during the holidays. You'll notice the bottom has a big white space because that's where you would drop in your photo, your contact information, a call to action if you decide to. This is a great mailing piece. This is a great piece to use on listing appointments to communicate why they should list now during the holiday. And also we put in November and December task calendar. We have some power agents that told me they love this, because it really tells you, you know what, if there's only one thing to do today, maybe this is the one thing to consider to do. Don't forget, we have the monthly interviews. We have next month an incredible interview with Mark Leeson. I don't know if he's on the call. I just interviewed him yesterday. He was awesome. I want to remind the power agents, we have the closed Facebook group. And when you're in the classroom, if you scroll down to the bottom of the classroom where all those tabs are, you'll see a link that will bring you directly to the group. We have our weekly conference calls every Monday. Don't forget, those start at 11 o'clock Eastern time, which is different than this. And of course, you should be getting our newsletter that's loaded every week with tips and techniques for y'all. Last thing, I believe it's the last thing, poweragentwebinar.com. Our next webinar is going to be December 18th. It's going to be really, we love this. We taught this last year. We're going to do it again this year about the 3-part business plan. A lot of people just talk about one business plan. We think you should have 3 separate ones. One is based on now business, to generate now business. The next one is future business. And the third plan is financial freedom, how to manage your money better. So we're going to go over those 3 parts of the business plan. But right now we're going to get into this specific topic, which is how to get your offers accepted in 24 hours, even with multiple offers. We're doing this because it's this time of year. You should be seeing, you're writing some more contracts. This is also good during the summer. So first, let me start off with the concepts. And I'm going to go pretty quick, gang, because this session, this webinar is loaded with content. Loaded. Now, Power Agents, I just want to remind you, because this is kind of a part 2, right? So let me back up for a second. So we're talking about negotiating offers. So this is assuming you've taken a buyer out, you've shown property, they like property. The part 1 to this is the showing the properties and how to get the buyers excited about it, about a house. When you go to the classroom tab and you go to webinars, you will see the webinar I did in August, which was about working with buyers. So that was really great. This isn't like this part 2 to it, where, because in that session, gang, when you sat down with a buyer, you talked about, okay, I want to inform you about myself, ask questions. We're going to select the houses, then we're going to go look at them. That's number 4. And then we're going to come back to the office to do the paperwork. The paperwork is writing the offer. So that's this part of that 6-step buying process. Here's the first concept I want to talk about when it comes to negotiating offers. Selling a house is a 2-way negotiation, meaning, gang, it's between the buyer and the seller, not between the buyer, the seller, and the agent, the listing agent, and the selling agent. It seems like sometimes buyers, mostly sellers, want to make us part of the negotiation, right, about our commission. And you just have to have that concept be clear that what we do is facilitate. We bring the people together to put a contract together, but we're not part of the contract. We're not part of purchasing it. So when they want to bring us into negotiating our commission, we want to kill that right away. And I'll show you how to do that. You want to use the commitment of the buyer to move the transaction forward, meaning that I know some of you who are experienced, you might have had situations where you were more motivated to the deal going through than the buyer or seller was. And gang, this is a really important concept, because here's what's interesting. When a buyer or seller senses that you are really committed to this deal going through, they become less. So the more you stress out about it, the less they stress about it. So you need to keep that concept in mind. You need to pull back a little bit and have those people generate the purchase and you facilitate it. All right, third one is whether you're representing the buyer or the seller, you must present the offer in person to the seller. Now, of course, the exception to this is if the seller is in another state, then you might do like a Zoom meeting, something on, I prefer you do it face-to-face, right? So I prefer it better than a phone call. Okay, there's something about the specialness, the importance of it, the seeing each other, seeing the reaction. Okay, now I know for some of you right now, you're saying that this is not how you do it in your market. If you are on the selling side and you're dealing with a listing agent, you write the offer, you give it to the listing agent, they present it for you. You and I both know that that doesn't work. As a matter of fact, I want to take a poll right now, so we're going to see how we do with this poll. So give me a second, gang. I'm going to open up the polls. And I'm going to launch a poll. So I'm sending it now. So here's the poll. The poll is, I'd like you to look at it, and I'd like you all to vote, please, because we're going to just open this poll right now. So we're going to take 30 seconds for this. So everybody hurry up if you'll look. The poll is, and the question it's asking is that when you are on the selling side and you write the offer, do you give the offer to the listing agent they present it for you, or do you present it yourself with the listing agent, right? So we're going to just see how the polls, we got a lot of people voting, and so right now, 45% of the people have voted. So there's another almost 50% of you. So if you'll just find that poll, I like to get most of you. And the sooner you vote, the sooner I can go on with the slide, right? So here we go. So everybody, we're at 58%. Let's keep going here, 59. Come on, gang. What some of you are, you're reading slow. 62% have voted. We're going to give another 10 seconds. 63%. 64, very good. So far, it really looked, this is horrible what I'm seeing. And I'm so grateful that you're on this call because we're going to fix this. So 5 more seconds. We've got 67%, 68. I really want to get this up to 75%. We're at 69%. If we get 6% more people voting. So come on, gang, let's vote. Some people may be 70%. All right, I think 70% is good, and it's still coming in. Okay, so I'm going to stop the poll. So right now, it's 87% of you give the offer to the listing agent. 13% of you actually present the offer with the listing agent. So
Wow.
let me just close that. Sorry, gang, I just did something wrong. You see, this is the first time I'm doing this. Share it. So I'm going to share that with you guys. Okay, poll results. So let me go back to my slides. Okay, how are we doing, Julie?
We're
Are we
good.
all good?
That's very enlightening.
Okay, so what's really interesting is that 87% of you are doing it wrong. Ha ha ha. Now, I'm kind of joking, but let's get serious. So 87% of you will actually give the offer to the listing agent. They present it for you. Now, if we could have a conversation, I know what you're going to say because I've been teaching for 30 years to realtors, and I know the answer to what I'm about to say. The 87% of you that do that, you know that that does not work. You know that when you write the offer and you give it to the listing agent, you don't know what that listing agent is doing with your offer. You don't know if they're presenting it quickly. You do not know if they're going to miraculously come up with an in-house offer all of a sudden that kind of beats out your offer, etc., etc., etc. Let me explain a concept right now. I'm going to interrupt myself because this is really important that we all are aware of this. The moment the buyer writes the offer, their anxiety level starts. And the longer we take to put that deal together, the higher the odds are that buyer changes their mind. You all know this. So it's really imperative when we get an offer, when we're on the selling side, and even on the listing side, we've got to put that offer as quickly as possible. We do not want the buyers to cool off. Because let me tell you what also happens. The longer it takes for a seller to accept a buyer's offer, if there's no other offers that come in, right? So a day goes by, 2 days, 3 days, then the buyer is like, okay, so no other buyers come in yet. So maybe there's something wrong with this house. You all know this, buyers want what other buyers want, right? So if their offer is not accepted, we're not in contract, day 1, day 2, day 3, nobody else is making offers, the buyer starts to cool and say, well, wait a second, maybe it's not as special or as hot as I thought it was. You all know the moment the buyer likes the house, they want to write the offer right away because they don't want to lose it. They don't want somebody else coming in, taking their house away from them. So every day that it gets dragged out, it's cooling that buyer off because now they're thinking, yeah, maybe this house is not as hot. So I'm going to show you how, when you are on the selling side, that the listing agent legally has to let you present the offer. Now keep something else in mind. I am a big listing agent guy, meaning I'm all about listings and teaching agents and the listing inventory workshop and calling FSBOs and expired. So I'm a listing agent before I'm a selling agent. And I'm telling you, as a listing agent, I would let every selling agent present offers to my sellers. And there's a good reason for that. It's better for my sellers, and I'll explain why in just a second. First of all, your MLS probably states that the selling agent has the right to be present. So that's number one. If you were to check your MLS, Every MLS in the United States has something like this. That's
Hey,
number one.
Darryl,
Yes, Julie.
we're not seeing your slides or you anymore. It's still on the poll.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. Huh.
There you go.
Can you see me now?
Again, we missed you.
You know what? I was talking so passionately with conviction in my facial expressions. Everybody lost it. I was working the camera, Julie. You should have said something
You
to me.
know, you're going to have to make up for lost time now.
I ain't doing it again. Sorry, gang. You see, I told you it's the first time I was doing a poll, and I just learned something. I had to press the little button to make it go away. Getting back to this. Number one, your MLS probably has it where you can present as a selling agent. You have the right to present the offer. Number two, second thing, is meet with the listing agent prior to presenting the offer so you can work together. Now, some listing agents are control freaks. They don't trust you. It could be a top agent. They don't trust you. There could be a lot of reasons why the listing agent would not want you to talk to their seller. And so one of the things you can do to appease them on that is tell them, listen, let's set up the appointment whatever time. So if we're going to meet at 7 o'clock and present the offer to the homeowners, let's you and I meet at 6:30 in front of the house. I'll jump into your car. I'll go over the offer with you so you're not hearing the offer for the first time in front of the seller. So that's an option to do it. Number three, reciprocate. So when you're on the listing side, gang, you need to start doing this. There have been markets where I have a lot of students, and one that comes to mind, I don't know, years ago, so it may have changed again, but I was in Tyson's Corner and I was teaching this concept, and back then, that's how they did it, right? The selling agent would not present the offer. They give it to the listing agent. So I started doing a lot of training. There were a lot of agents, a lot of students, and all of a sudden it switched to what I'm teaching you now. So it's a culture thing, right? So we reciprocate when we're on the listing side. It'll help change this. You all know that it doesn't work doing it the way we've been doing it. The fourth thing is, if the listing agent insists that you can't present the offer, then get a statement from the seller stating that the seller knows that Darryl Davis has an offer on my house and I'm choosing not to hear it. Sometimes a listing agent can try and be smart and they'll say, well, my seller doesn't want to hear your offer. They only want to hear it from me. So then tell them to put it in writing and make sure they do it before the expiration time of the offer, and say you need that because from a legal standpoint, I need to have something in writing that the homeowner is aware that there's an offer and they're choosing not to hear it, because if that's not the case, you're going to lose your license. I'm not going to lose mine. I need to get this in writing. Now here's the piece of resistance. I'm going to show it to you right now. Number 5, this is how you can get the listing agent to let you present the offer. Is what you're going to do is on the offer, on the form, on the contract, whatever you want to call it. In Long Island, we call them offers, purchase offers, or binders. This offer is contingent on, bada bing, you put your name in there, presenting this agreement directly to the seller. Now, once you write that on the offer, the listing agent has no choice legally to have you present that offer directly to the seller. Now, I want you to keep something in mind. Gang, I'm not saying that we're going to bypass the listing agent. I'm not saying that we're going to go to the homeowner without the listing agent. No, we're going to do it together. It's their client. It's your buyer. Together, we're going to sit down with that homeowner and go over this offer. Now, let me tell you why, from a listing agent side, why I would want a selling agent to present their offer, because it's their offer. It's their buyer. That agent knows more about that buyer than I ever will as a listing agent. I want that agent to sit in front of me and my clients, the sellers, and present the offer beyond what's on the paper. How long have they been looking? What kind of qualification? What lender are they going? There's questions I might have. Did they put an offer in before that didn't go through? And why was that? These are the questions that I can, and the seller can only ask the agent who has actually been taking those buyers out. This is a win-win for everybody, gang. It's a win-win for the homeowners, the buyers, and for our industry. To do it any other way is sloppy. It creates communication problems. And from a legal standpoint, that's how you can get that to work. Now, just to highlight that the standard of practice in our code of ethics says, when acting as a listing broker, realtor shall continue to submit the to the seller all offers and counter offers until closing or execution of lease is waived, blah, blah, blah. So in other words, here's my point. And it says unless they waive this obligation in writing. Now, sometimes the listing agent will say that. Well, they did. They wrote something when I took the listing. And when they wrote something at the listing agreement, it says, I don't want to hear any offers unless it goes through my agent. What I would still do from a legal standpoint is I would tell the listing agent, okay, that's what they wrote when you took the listing, but I need a letter that they are aware that I, Darryl Davis, with Power Realty has an offer and they're choosing not to hear it. I need that. Okay, so let's continue. Writing the offer. So here's what you want to do. First of all, you want to stand in their commitment. So you're sitting with that buyer. Here's how you do this. You're sitting with the buyer and you stand in their commitment to owning it. You do not sit down and ask them, so how much do you want to offer? That creates a problem. You want to confirm the monthly payments at full price. Here's what we know. The house that they just saw at this price, they can get it. Anything less than that, there's no guarantee. Even if you are representing them as a buyer's agent, you should sit down with them and just confirm the monthly payments and see if that works for them. If it does, start writing it at full price. Let me get some information. What's today's date? That's how you start writing on the contract or start typing it. Keep them involved. Now, by the way, let me just back up for a second. If they decide they don't want to go full price, then they'll interrupt you with this. They'll say, well, Darryl, you're doing it on monthly payments at the full price. I said, yeah, because this house at this price, we know it's going to work. Well, Darryl, should we come in lower? Yes, you can. You can do that. But I will tell you this. Sometimes you come in too low, you can insult the seller. Sometimes as we're negotiating back and forth, every moment that we don't get an accepted offer, there's other people possibly looking to schedule to see it and to buy it. So every moment that we drag this out is a chance of us losing the house. The question is, do you want to try and save 20 bucks a month or $50 a month and actually lose the house? There's that old expression, save a nickel, lose a dime. I'd hate for you to lose the house because you're trying to save 50 bucks a month, but hey, listen, you're the client, I'll do whatever you want. Well, Darryl, what do you think I should offer? That's not for me to tell you. You've got to make the choice. It's your house. You'll be living in it for the next umpty-ump years. All I can do is maybe show you what's been selling. I can give you my opinion. Is it going to appraise? And I think it will. And if I'm wrong, the bank's got it covered. You won't overpay for a house because the bank won't let you pay for it because they're financing much more than you're putting into it. So you're in partnership with the bank and they're the majority owner, if you will. So they're going to make sure that this house is priced correctly. So those are some of the things you can say. I think one of the mistakes we can make is as agents, we start giving our opinion and telling the buyer, this is how much we should buy the house for. When we sit down with a buyer and they like the house and we do this, okay. So let's figure out what we should offer. You just took them from the space of, hey, I want to buy this house, here's my next home, and you made it about the money. Unless they're an investor, again, we shouldn't be having this whole next level, going to their next level in their life and have it be about the money, because that's what kills the deals, right? So, all right, so keep them involved. So as you're filling out the documents, keep them involved. You hand them the pen, you direct the signature light in the moment, say, all right, here we go. This house is so big, I may want to move in with you guys, haha, or whatever, however you might light in the moment. And then one of the things you do is you ask the spouse a question. In other words, when you give that agreement to whoever that you give it to first, which people ask me, Darryl, who should I give it to first? You should give it to the person who's been nodding yes, and they're the most excited. So whoever's the most excited one, that's where there's momentum. That's the person you give it to. And when you give it to that person, you start talking to the spouse, because you all know this. Let me see. Sometimes this has happened, right? Where we give the contract to the one home spouse, and they turn to the other spouse and go, well, honey, what do you think? Should we do this? And then we start freaking out. Did I just lose my camera? We start freaking out like, oh my God, I hope they just accept it, just sign it. So when you start talking to the other spouse, it kind of distracts them. And the other one says, okay, here we go. All right. Next one. Next one is let's have the buyers write a love letter. Now to the seller. So here's what the love letter is. A love letter is where it humanizes the buyers. You ask the buyers to write a letter to the sellers about why they're so excited to own the home. And I'm going to show you some sample letters. But before I do that, I have our second polls. Everybody, I'm going to launch the poll. And the poll that I just launched is, do you have buyers write a love letter that you give to the sellers, right? So if you all will just fill that out really quick. Now, I know some of you may have a concern about this because a concern has come up recently in the past several months. I'll tell you what the concern is if you don't know, though some of you do know the concern. I will address that with you so you don't have to worry about it. But we have 50%. Thank you, guys. You really are awesome. This is Julie. This is an awesome group. Look at how many poll people are participating. I think I like this. This is very revealing, Julie, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So I really like this. Like, you see this, I didn't expect this to see almost an even amount of people. So we'll just finish the poll. Let me get some more people. We're at 62%. So do you give a letter? Do you have the buyers write a letter to the sellers? Okay.
We have a lot of people that would like to see it as a sometimes as well. Like, in other words, they're not always doing it.
Oh, I see. Like, that could have been a choice. Well, you know what? If you've done it sometimes, that would be a yes, right? So I would say, you've done it before. You maybe not all the time. That would be a yes then. There's some people, like 56% of the people never did it. So this helps me. I'm going to close out the vote now and share it. So 44% said yes, 56% no. Okay, so there's almost a split there. Let me tell you the power of the letter, which, by the way, this is why you need to present your offers to the seller with the listing agent. I'll show you later how that works.
And you're going to cover the concern, correct?
Yeah, I'm going to cover the concern now. So the concern is, yeah, but Darryl, buyers can't write a letter because I can't see it. My camera's in the way. Because the buyers or I can get sued for discrimination if the seller accepts another offer. So, here's what I want to just make you guys aware of. The Fair Housing Act has been around that long, and power agents, we've been doing this for over 25 years, and now all of a sudden it's becoming a concern. Okay, it never was a concern before. So I'm going to tell you how to deal with the concern about discrimination, okay? Which, by the way, I will tell you, I've never heard of somebody getting sued because they wrote a letter and their offer didn't get accepted. I have not heard of any case like that. This has been brought out by NAR, and I don't think that there's a lot of validity to this, but that's just my opinion. So here, for those who don't know, the Fair Housing Act says individuals cannot discriminate based on race, religion, national origin, sex, family status, blah, blah, blah. And then in addition to that, every state has their own criteria, okay? And it actually will list it. Like in New York, it actually lists age, marital status, military status, sexual orientation. Okay, now, here's how you avoid and here's how you deal with the concern about discrimination. Whatever your state plus the federal bullets, and they're bullets just like this. Whatever they are, make sure that you do not have the buyers include that in the letter. Like, stay away from their religion, stay away from their age or their marital status, if you're from New York. So have the letters communicate something emotional that doesn't cover these points in it. Now I'm going to show you some letters that will have these points, simply because they're older letters from one of our original classes before this whole nonsense got kicked up. But I want you to see the power of these letters. Dear Mrs. DeWare, as we present this offer, we'd like to thank you for considering as buyers for your home. We looked at many houses, but none of them had the same feelings yours has. Along with meeting the needs of a large family, your home is filled with the love of 27 years. We all had the sensation we were being hugged when we walked in. The children, who obviously don't understand the process of negotiations, have already chosen the bedrooms. We have, of course, told friends and family about your home. They're keeping us in our prayers. For this reason, it's always good to throw God in there because now you're fighting God. So, God, so we're praying to him. So he says we should be okay, or her. We feel confident that we can reach an agreement that everyone is comfortable with, no matter what the outcome is. We're grateful to have been considered to possibly be the next family to be raised in the warmth of your home. Now, the reason why this letter, gang, is so powerful and so important is because what we're going to do, the buyers are going to write a letter, and we're going to read the letter before we present the offer. And when we do that, it creates a different listening. The homeowner listens to the offer totally different. Listen, I don't have to tell you this. Gang, you've had this happen. Any of you experienced agents where you presented an offer, or you're the listing agent, and the homeowner had two offers to choose from, right? There was one that was better than the other, but the better offer, the homeowner couldn't stand these buyers. They just didn't like these people. They're not for any fair discrimination, maybe because they had a bad attitude because they were nitpicking about something, and they accepted the other offer that had less money or worse terms. And here's why that is because homeowners look at a house as like that deed is like a family tree. That homeowner knew who owned the house before them and who owned it before. There's a certain amount of they're transferring this family tree to the next family. You've seen it happen. I got a letter here. Let me see here. This is a similar example, but the opposite, right? It's not because they didn't like somebody. It's because they really had a connection with the other buyers. They wanted to help. This goes back years. Like there was an asking price of $215 on the house. That the listing agent told the selling agent, listen, if your offer is anything less than $210, don't even bother, because they just rejected that number. They already rejected $210. Here was the letter. Dear Miss Simple, dear Miss O'Keefe, my children and I visited your house yesterday, and we're very impressed with your home. I'm a recent widow, and I wanted the home that the children I would love and make our transition to New York an easy process. I hope we'll be able to negotiate the sale so we can be settled as soon as possible. Maureen Sweeney. Now, listen, for any of the legal people on the call, like, yeah, but Darryl, that's talking about family. It's talking about our marital status. You just said not to do that. Keep in mind that this letter was written before people started kicking the hornet's nest, worried about fair discrimination when it came to this specific concept of letters. These letters I've been teaching since 1993, and I have seen this technique put more deals together. Like in this example, this homeowner would not accept anything less than $210. Bada bing, they accepted $198,000. That's a huge difference from $210. Why? Because that seller wanted to help Maureen Sweeney and the kids make the transition to New York an easier process. All right. Now, I'm not going to go through all these letters, but I'm going to give you a copy of those letters. There's a couple more letters so you have them. Let's talk about our contract terms. So when you're filling out the contract, number one is get a large deposit. That strengthens your offer. Now, I was going to do another survey, but I don't want to eat up any more time on survey, so I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to make a statement or maybe ask a question. Some of you, some of your markets, like Long Island is one of those, right? Where we'll have an accepted offer. We'll say that there's a first accepted on that house, but yet it hasn't gone into formal contracts yet. So there's no deposits, there's no money been transferred. Gang, especially those of you from New York, I've already looked into the legal aspect. If the seller does not take a deposit, there's no first accepted, and you should stop telling agents there's a first accepted, because when you tell agents there is, they don't want to show your listing. It hurts the homeowner and it hurts the whole concept. So, and here's, I could probably go on, Julie, just about this. And I'm going to try and do a real short version of it. In some parts of the country, again, Long Island would be the example, is that the agent, the broker, does not want to have an escrow account to save deposits. But we've already looked into the legalities of it. If a homeowner has a rental, what does a person do when they want to rent an apartment? They may put down $100 to save the apartment for a few days because they want to move in. If they change their mind, they lose the $100. It's the same thing when it comes to a house. If a buyer wants to buy a house, they should put down X amount of dollars to secure it until they put that money down. And the broker, the agent, doesn't have to hold the money. The homeowner holds it. It's their house. It's their money. They hold it. There's no escrow. They take the money and they save the house for the buyer. Now there's a first accepted. Now they can't sell it to anybody else because they took that deposit. I'm selling a house on Long Island, one of our properties. I took no deposits. We told everybody there's still no first accepted. No one's giving us the money. We put 3 contracts out there, and whoever signs the contract first wins. Okay, this offer is contingent On you presenting it directly, we've already talked about that. Let's go on to the next thing. This offer expires. Make sure your offer has an expiration time. And same thing, one of the code of ethics is we shall submit offers as quickly as possible. Do you see that underlined, gang? As quickly as possible. I cannot stress that enough how important it is that we write offers and get it presented as quickly as possible. If that buyer goes to sleep without hearing a response to their offer, their anxiety level is so great, they're going to call you the next morning and say, you know what, I guess it wasn't meant to be. We changed our mind. So you've got to try and get it presented and done the day they wrote the offer. Now, in a case where a buyer may have a house to sell, you should put in the contract saying that the purchaser agrees to list their home for sale with you, obviously, if it's in your market. If the buyer pushes back, you have a conversation, say, well, you're going to sell your house. We need to tell the seller you're going to sell it, and I'm going to manage both sides of the transaction. Why wouldn't you? I'm helping you buy the house. Of course, I'm going to help sell your house. So you be very assumptive with that. One of the things that kills deals quite a bit is the engineer inspection. I think one of the things we should do is define that engineer inspection clause, that it's subject to any major defects and what a major defect is. When you all know when we don't do that, and the engineer is paid to find things wrong, so they'll find a torn screen, or they'll find a little leak in the plumbing under the sink in the toilet, and they nitpick because they're getting paid and they feel like they have to find stuff to justify the money the buyer's paying, and then the buyer gets all concerned and whacked out. And now we're going to negotiate a leak in the plumbing under the sink, and it kills the deal. So I think this is the way to go, that you have to explain, we're going to do an engineer, but we're only looking for major stuff. We're looking for a foundational roof, boiler, but nothing like torn screens. To make you the offer amount a quirky number, it'll stick out in the seller's mind, and it'll register actually a much higher number. This is actually scientifically proven. So instead of doing an offer for $345, perhaps the buyers can make an offer of $345, $255. So these quirky numbers, if the buyer is going to cover legal fees instead of $1,850, they'll do $1,905. That extra $55, it looks like a much bigger number. It's a psychological thing that studies have been done on. Preparing to present the offer, gang, I'm just going quick, make sure I cover all this stuff for you. Julie, how are we doing over here?
We're good. We do have a lot of questions, so when we get to the end, I guess I can go through all of those for you.
Okay, good. Yeah, let me get through the material and I'll get to the questions. Before the buyer leaves, deal with potential buyer remorse. So when the buyer writes the offer, what we want to do, what I'm about to show you, gang, for the power agents, this is in the buyer tab, what I'm about to show you. So power agents on the call, when you go to Classroom, Playing with Buyers, you click on that, you're going to see this Loanopoly. And you put your contact information in there. And so when the buyer writes the offer and you're going to now go present it, you want to now talk to that buyer and say, now listen, here's where we are in the process of buying the house. So don't get overwhelmed. We're taking it one step at a time. If they have children, remind the buyers that this is about children too, right? If the buyers have little kids, studies have shown when the children live in a house that's owned, they actually do better in school, better math grades. There's a lot of studies done on this. So you want to keep the buyers excited and not confused or overwhelmed once they write the offer. So here's a few things, power agents, you can give to the buyers before they leave you to keep them committed and motivated about buying the house. There's something else I want to show you, power agents, under Classroom in the negotiating tab. So that was the buyer tab. In the negotiating tab, I love this. My team, Julie and Camille, they created this negotiating e-guide for buyers and sellers that explains when there's multiple. This is, to me, this book is so good we can actually sell it, even though it's 6 pages. The content in this is so great. I don't have time to talk about this, gang. You put your logo on it, you give it to buyers and sellers when there's multiple offers. You just check it out in the negotiating tab, all right? I don't have time to go over that. All right, now, it's self-explanatory. Meet with the listing agent prior to meeting with the seller. You meet in front of the house. We talked about that earlier. The next thing is, there's a lot of material, but gang, we're recording this webinar so you can listen to it over and over again, right? Ask the listing agent, when you meet with the listing agent in front of the house, ask them about the seller's commitment. Like, why are they moving? Where are they moving to? You want to get a sense of their time frame, because what we do as selling agents is we help homeowners get to their next level. And we need to know what their next level is if we're going to help them. So these are good questions to ask that homeowner. I mean, that listing agent about their client. The next thing is, if the buyers have a house to sell and you've been to that listing, you've been to that house, bring pictures of that house that the buyer is selling that you're going to list. Somehow it creates a connection between the seller and the buyer when they see their home that they're selling. It's a really powerful little technique. The next thing is, schedule the offer presentation, but do not reveal it over the phone. So when you call that listing agent, you see, Julie, some of the questions I know I'm answering. That's why we're going to save the questions at the end. When you call the listing agent to present the offer, they're going to say, well, tell me the offer. You say, well, John, this is a little bit different. These buyers, they really wanted me to present the offer to the homeowner with you, of course. As a matter of fact, they made me presenting the offer contingent as with the offer. So what I'm doing is calling just to set up a time when you and I can go together and present it. Well, Darryl, tell me what the offer is. I promise I won't tell the seller. Well, John, you know what? Here's what's going to happen when you call your client, the homeowner. They're going to ask you what the offer is. I don't want you to lie saying you don't know when you do. So I'm going to help you by not telling you. So let's just meet at 7. Well, Darryl, that's not how we do it. And if they push back, say, listen, John, this is how we've got to do it. The offer is contingent. Legally, we have to present the offer. All offers must be presented. There's an expiration date in the next 4 hours. So let's just put this deal together if it works for the seller. So call me back with a time, but it's got to be before it expires tonight. The offer expires at 10 o'clock tonight, okay? So again, you may have to get a little tough with the listing agent. And if I had more time, I can go through a whole bunch of different scenarios with you. So presenting the offer, you're sitting in front of the homeowner, and this is the 8 steps in presenting an offer to the homeowner. Now I'm going to go through these again fairly quick to cover all the points. And Power Agents, this checklist is in the negotiating tab of your website, the Power Program website. It's really more of a cheat sheet, but I'm going to break it down for you. So the first thing you're going to do when you go into the house is you're going to acknowledge the listing agent in front of the sellers. You're going to say, Mr. and Mrs. Hana, before we get started, I just want you to know, of all the agents you could have hired to be your listing agent, you did an awesome job when you hired Julie. She's one of the most respected agents in the marketplace. As a matter of fact, it's because of her hard work is why I'm even here with an offer for you. So Julie, thanks. It's an honor to work with you. Now, what I just did is I gave a little kudos to Julie in front of their client. Julie's going to appreciate it. Julie's going to be not so adversarial with me now that I've done that. Am I right, Julie?
Absolutely.
Then I'm going to explain my job. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Honey, even though I'm the selling agent, you know, I'm not here to like talk you down or to work against you. As a matter of fact, I like to look at what I do as managing the buyer side. Like Julie manages your side of the transaction, I'm managing the buyer side. But both Julie and I are realtors. We subscribe to the code of ethics. We have to be fair to all parties, to be integritous, to work with integrity. So, you know, really what I want to try and do, Julie and I both ultimately have the same goal, and that's to help you get to your next level in your life. So as a matter of fact, could you tell me, Mr. and Mrs. Hana, where were you folks moving to? What's your plans? When do you want to get there? And at some point, if you can, gang, you want to say, boy, I feel like I made it here just in the nick of time. So step 3 is about helping you get clear about what they're committed to, because this is why the seller is selling. And let me tell you another reason why to do this. When the homeowner shares their commitment to selling, they're going to listen to your offer now through their commitment to their next level in life. So step 3 is really important to have that conversation. After they share that with you, then you're going to humanize the buyers and say, well, let me tell you a little bit about Mary and Joe, and share some information about it. Again, if you're worried about the fair housing, me personally, I wouldn't worry about it, but that's me. I'm about just conceptually. I think sellers like to know who their buyer is, what's their background, because that says something about a buyer's commitment too. And it's at this point I would actually show them the list. Now, here's what the list is. I would say to a homeowner, you know, the buyers have been looking for a while. They've been looking for about a month. They've seen about a dozen homes. As a matter of fact, Mr. and Ms. Hanna, here's a printout of all the current homes that are currently for sale in the market. And I would go through this and I would show the seller, look, you got this, you got that. And I would flip through all of the homes in a printout like this. And I would say, I got to tell you, so out of all these homes, they actually picked yours. So that's why I'm excited with Julie's hard work, because they had so many other options to choose from. But gang, part of why you do this is most homeowners, when they have an offer, they start getting a little arrogant saying, you know, my house is special. Yes, people want it. You want to remind that homeowner, hey, listen, a bird in the hand, be lucky you got an offer, because there's other houses they could have purchased. And that's what you're saying subtly, so they'll listen to the offer with a little bit more open-mindedness. Then part of that is, so you do that, and then you're going to read the letter to the sellers and say, so they've been looking for a while. Here's all the houses they could have picked. As a matter of fact, they were so excited, Mr. and Ms. Hanna, they wrote a letter they wanted me to read to you. And then you read that letter to the sellers. Then at this point, you're going to present the offer. Now, here's how I recommend you present the offer. Explain to the homeowner how important, when looking at a buyer's offer, there's two things to look at. It's not just the price, but it's also the terms. See, sometimes the homeowners just focus on the price. But let's say that you got a great price. Let's say you're getting $10,000 more than your asking price, right? But yet they have no money to put down. They want you to finance 95% of it. They're going to borrow the other amount. They have a house. Like, then you go through horrible terms. Then you would say to that homeowner, I can guarantee you'll never see that price because it'll never close. So as a matter of fact, I'm sure Julie would agree with this, your listing agent, that we got to make sure the terms of the buyer are strong, right? So let me tell you about the terms of these particular people. They're putting down a large deposit. Our average is for a buyer to put down, 5%. Well, they're actually putting down 10%, which is the double. They have not a they have a pre-commitment. They've done what's called desktop underwriting, which means they've already been approved. The bank is just waiting for the address of the house. They have the closing date is whatever you want, so it works for you guys, and they're buying it as is. Now they're going to do an engineer inspection, but they're looking for major stuff. Like I noticed when I showed the house that the screen door didn't close all the way. They don't care about that stuff. They just want to make sure the roof's not caving in or the boiler's going to blow up. And when you say something like that, the Mr. Johnson, the homeowner, he may say, oh, no, that roof is brand new. We just had that put in about 2 years ago. That thing, they got another 30 years. Oh, that's great. Yeah. And so you're starting to have that little connection there. Like they're trying to sell me now on their house versus me trying to sell them on their offer. You're going to then present the price. And here's how you do that. You're going to show the MLS stats, the list price to sales price ratio, meaning if your MLS shows that the average sales price and the average list price represents 92.5%, you might say their offer is actually 93.5%, which is 1% better than our MLS average, which is awesome. And then the last thing is you're going to invite them to take action, which is to sign the agreement. And that's the end of that. Recap the positives, you get the signature, and then you go out and celebrate. So let's talk about handling objections. So, again, there's a lot we're covering. So let's say if they ask you to cut your commission. Julie asked me, Darryl, will you cut your commission?
Darryl, will you cut your commission?
No, there's the technique right there. Very simple, not hard to memorize that dialogue. Here's the second thing is reiterate that this is a two-way negotiation, not a three-way negotiation. You want to remind the homeowner that your commission was negotiated and agreed upon when the listing was signed. And that's in ink. We don't play with that anymore. If they really do push it, and they really do want to push it, you can pretend that you are going to cut your commission. Let me show you how you do that. You first say to them, okay, well, how much commission do you want me to cut? whatever number they say, you want to confirm it as a dollar amount. Like they may say, I want you to cut 0.5% or 1%. So in other words, at 0.5% at $500,000, you want me to cut $2,500. Is that right? Because that's what 0.5% would be, I believe. Is that right? 10%, something like that. Let's just go with that number, 2,500. And they say yes. You get them to agree. If I can get you that extra $2,500, would you then accept this offer? So it's almost like you're suggesting to them that, all right, you want me to give you 2,500. If I can give you the 2,500, if I can make that happen, would you accept the offer? They say yes. Then you go back to the buyers and you counter your new offer with the additional $2,500, and you explain to the homeowner, listen, I don't cut my fee. That's just not how I do work. So that's how you can do that if they really press it. Okay, well, counter at, when they say they'll counter at a specific number, one of the things you want to do is say, because of these buyers being so qualified, if we had to go to blank, I mean, if it was a difference between moving or not, could that work for you? So let me explain this really quick because I want to try and get these questions in. If let's say the house is listed at 200, the offer is 180, let's say 190, and they come back at 195, and you say, well, no, I'm sorry, I need a flip chart for this, Julie. If let's say if its listing price is 200, they offer 180, and the seller comes back with 190, and I say to the sellers, well, if I can get you 187, if 186, it was a choice. In other words, gang, what you try and do, we usually know that number that everybody's going to agree to. Here's the concept. What you want to do is when you're talking to the seller, you ask them, if I can get you to blank, if I can get that number for you. And the number you say is the number below the number you think everybody's going to agree to. And then when you talk to the buyers, you do the same thing, but reverse, right? If whatever that number is you think everybody's going to agree to, you ask the buyers if you had to go to this number, the higher number, right? So what you do is you ask that if I could get you this number below or above the number you believe everybody's going to agree to. That's the negotiating dance, all right? The offer is too low, the house buyback. Well, would you buy your house back for blank, the offer that they're rejecting? Because right now your house is sold, and by not accepting this offer, it's actually like you're buying your house back. So that's the house buyback technique.
Ooh, I like that.
That's all she wrote. Now, before I get to the questions, I want to tell you about the power programs. We have 7 minutes, and we have a lot of questions because I have a gift for you guys. So those of you that are not power agents, stay with me because I have a surprise for you. We've covered a lot on this program, and we're going to give you access to the full power program for 30 days at no charge. You're going to have complete access to the website, and you're going to get a copy of these slides plus a recording of this webinar. This program, you actually get, we have weekly calls every Monday. We have these webinars on demand, like we're going to be doing the business plan next month. The dedicated website has literally hundreds of forms and checklists as part of the program. So a lot of what you've seen today, power agents, you already have this. It's on the website for you. We interview top agents every month, and we put it into a digital magazine, and we record it. We have special pricing with certain vendors. We have this dedicated Facebook closed group for you. And the Facebook group, we have, this is just one of the posts that we got not too long ago. She said, I'm so pumped from the webinar. She started calling FSBOs, and she's already getting listing appointments. We have so many agents who really have built their inventory. So what you'll do, gang, if you want to go to thepowerprogram.com/webinar bonus. Sorry, that keeps changing. Don't go anywhere. Webinar, the power, it keeps going. Thepowerprogram.com. Webinar bonus. If you go there, you'll be able to get these bonuses and get these slides and everything else. So that's where you want to go to get a copy of today's slides. Now, our current power agents that are on the call, you're going to get a copy of these slides sent to you, and because you're on this call. Even though it's on the Power Program website, we're going to just make it easy for you. Okay, Julie, do we have questions?
We do. Many agents, listing agents, only present offers on the phone. So how do we get the meet with the owners if the listing agent doesn't meet in person?
You just put it in the agreement saying that this offer is subject to so-and-so, you presenting the offer face-to-face to the homeowners. It's really very bad practice. Oh, I'm going to tell you something else too. For those of you that work with attorneys and the attorneys write the contracts, like in Long Island, what we've been doing, Julie, it's been very sloppy, is that the attorneys have been emailing contracts back and forth to people. In the old days, they used to actually set up a sit down, and most agents, oh, people won't agree to that. Let me tell you something. I guarantee you, if people set a sit down date to sign contracts and we all come together, that it's going to happen that day. When it's done, email back and forth, change this, change that. Negotiations are still going on for weeks because we haven't picked that date to sit down. So anyway, to present the offer should be done in person. Just put it in the agreement. Next question, Julie.
Our contracts allow for 3 days. Should we put pressure on a response in 24 hours?
3 days for response? Listen, that's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Change it to 24 hours. The homeowner doesn't need 3 days to think about it. They knew what they were willing to accept the day they decided to sell their house. And then if it's been on the market for weeks, let me tell you something. If they have 3 days to think about it, it's hurting the seller, because the buyer, it's 3 days for them to change their mind. It's imperative that offers get presented and done the day it's written. Listen, we make as much money as doctors. Some doctors, if they got to be called in for surgery, they don't say, well, give me 3 days, I'll meet you in the OR. Their phone goes off, they get dressed, they go. That's what we have to do when an offer happens. Julie, next question.
Do you think in a love letter, if it says, we think this would be a great family home for us, do you think that violates anything?
Again, I want you to check. For those of you that are getting a copy of the slides, it'll show you the federal, I don't remember what it was, but in addition to federal, you have to look up your state. So you would type in Alabama Fair Housing Law and see what it says in there. Okay. I'll be honest with you. Me personally, this whole love letter and the law and the concern about fair housing, it just has gotten so blown up, and there's really no basis for it. Me personally, I would just ignore it. I'm trying to put people together, and I got errors and omissions insurance if I got to worry about it. That's me personally, gang. Go on, Julie. Next question.
What if the listing agent has a signed document that states all offers must be presented through my agent?
Yes, it is being presented through the agent, because you're calling the agent to go do the offer with them. But your offer says it's subject, this particular offer is subject to you presenting it to the seller face-to-face with the listing agent, right? So if the agent has that in writing, you need to remind them you took that letter a week, 2 weeks, 2 months ago when you took the listing. This is now. I wouldn't want to risk my license on something that was written 2 weeks ago, and I am going through you. So if you still want to stick with that, I need you to send me a letter saying the seller's aware that they're choosing not to hear my offer. No homeowner is going to agree to that. Go on, next question.
We cannot present offers in person. We have an addendum in place that agents and buyers must sign acknowledging there are many offers and whether or not the listing agent also has their own offers.
Yeah, you can, so I'm telling you, without question, you can change that. Awesome. I'm not 90, just for those of you that are not power agents, you may not know me. But so if you don't know me, I'm sorry, but I'm telling you, I'm 100% positive, 100%, not 99, 100% positive in every state in the United States, the selling agent has the right to present the offer to the seller with the listing agent if that's what's in writing, and it should be done that way because it's better for the sellers and it's better for the buyers. Period. End of story.
Period.
Next question.
Do you take any other forms with you to the meeting in order to make agreeable changes? What can you do when the owner's out of state?
Yeah, if the homeowner's out of state, I would do a go-to meeting or a Zoom. Zoom is my favorite when it's like a virtual meeting. So I would do that. And yes, I think you should bring whatever forms you need. So that way, when you present it to the homeowner, bada bing, it's done right there at the table. If there's any countering, here's how you do the countering. You call the buyers from the kitchen or not the kitchen, but on your cell while you're at the house with the homeowner. And you say to the buyers, listen, I'm here with the Johnsons. They really like you. They want this offer, but they need another $2,000. If you can come up to $2,000, you got your home. And that's how you do it. You handwrite it, you change it, initial, everybody signs it, bada bing, it's done. Next question.
I love this. Deborah just said that she just presented Loanopoly to a buyer and they loved it. So I love that. And we have a Sellopoly as well. So, you know, for listing agents. So I just,
yeah, listen, the Loanopoly gang, current power. So watch this. Current power agents go to the website, log in, go to buyers, classroom buyers or classroom negotiating. There's a lot of great stuff that we just covered today. Now, for those of you who are not power agents, when you sign up today, we're going to hold your hand. Don't worry. Like, well, what classroom, what website, what is he talking about? Trust me, we're going to take good care of you. You're going to get a phone call from me. You're going to get instructions. You're going to get an email. Here's what I suggest you do. Just go to that website. Sign up during the 30. You know what you can do during the 30 days? You can print out everything and then cancel. So I just showed you how to
don't do that.
steal everything from me. And you could do that. So do it. Julie hates when I say that, but you can do it. That's fine. We're here to help you guys. All right. I think we're done, Jules. Let's wrap it up.
We are. We'll see
Gang,
you guys on the line and we'll have a lot of fun together.
Yes, gang, please become power agent if you're not. Those who are power agents, I'll talk to you guys next Monday. Don't forget, we got our call 11 o'clock live with me. And those questions for the new power agents, Monday calls, you actually can talk to me. This is a training session, this webinar. But the Monday calls are actually, we open it up to where we can talk one-on-one. All right, gang. God bless you. Listen, last thing I'll say, don't forget, we don't just sell real estate, right? Watch this. Look at this. We help people get to the next level. So when somebody's selling to buy a house, this is life-changing. So go out and focus on changing people's lives, and the money will follow. The money we make is merely gauges to how many lives we've touched. Let's focus on touching lives, making a difference, and the money, it'll happen. All right, God bless you guys. Thanks for calling in, and I'll look forward to talking to you on the Monday call.
Thanks,
and keep
everybody.
smiling. All right.